Guys, so let's continue with the tutorial. Last time we left off kind of creating the sole for the boot here. I'm going to show you how we can create kind of like this part over here of the shoe. I'm going to show you how we can create the stitches as well and how I was able to get that. And then some highlights and try to see if we can finish up some of those different details that we have. So one of the first things I'm going to do is just kind of gather some of my gradient colors. So I'm going to hit the letter I for the eyedropper. I'm going to click on this dark brown, just drop it into my swatches. Go in here and just kind of click on the lighter color. And basically that's the colors that I'm using for those areas. And you know what, might as well, just since I'm here, I'm gonna click on this guy, kind of grab some of those colors in there. I can recycle from over there, but I think I'm just gonna use some of these colors. I think this is fine. I think we have something to work with. So one of the things that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stylize this, maybe creating some type of I can do a brush, or I can create a graphic style to kind of apply it to those elements. And you're going to see how this graphic style works. I really like how once you apply this to the content, it kind of saves you a lot of time. So my thing is kind of creating this whole thing, so I don't have to, so I can reuse it and recreate it over and over, so without having to do a lot of things. So my first thing is I'm going to grab a rectangle tool. Let's make it something like that, just to kind of get the idea from this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a gradient to this. So before I continue, I'm going to go to Window Appearance. If you notice here in the Window Appearance, it's going to give you some different things, kind of like what we have for the settings of that object. You're going to see here, you have the stroke, you have the fill, we're using a path. And what I can do here, I can add a new fill. You can see here, I can add a fill. And one of the things that I can do with the fill is I can add a gradient fill to it. But the fill is not going to work well for me. I would think it would be a fill, but in reality, it will be a stroke. So I'm going to go here, add a stroke. With that stroke, you're going to see it creates a new stroke. I can apply a gradient to the stroke. And if you notice here, it gives me the gradient. If I open up my gradient window, this is what my property of my gradient is, right? So remember, I selected, or I created those color swatches with my gradient. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this guy somewhere around 50. That's the location of the middle. Now I'm going to make this one, that's going to be my black. So now you have this, but you notice it's going in the wrong way. So if you go to the stroke property here, and you open up show options, all right? One of the things that we can do, actually, I'm sorry, not on the stroke, on the gradient option, you're going to notice here it says stroke. Right now it's set to apply gradient within the stroke. You can apply gradient along the stroke, or we can apply a gradient across. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this setting here. And if you notice, I can crank this guy up. I can make it whatever size I want. Let's do it about maybe 25 is a good size. Just to give you a number, right? 25. You notice here, we're already getting this effect here. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color. So one of the colors I'm going to use is, remember, that dark brown. So I'm going to replace that black to that dark brown on both sides. And then I'm going to grab that light color in the middle. And it's going to create that middle part of it. Now, I can play around with these gradients here. You can see here I can play around with the location of the darkness and the light. Then I'm going to worry about this. This is going to be a highlight. That's the same thing kind of like what I do with the brushes. And that's how I'm going to create that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a, with the stroke that I have here, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to duplicate the stroke, duplicate item. So now we have one on the top and one on the bottom. They're the same size. So what I'm going to do with the one underneath is I'm going to make it a little bit wider, maybe about 2 points. And if you notice that it has a specific gradient here, I might even make it even, I think I'm going to make it, just leave it like how it is right now. And, or do I want to make it a little bit bigger? I think I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Let me make it about 30. Let's give it about 30, and just to give enough room to kind of come all the way across. And what I'm going to do is, if you notice that it has like a little bit of a bevel on both ends here, and that's what I'm going to create. I'm going to create that using my gradient here already that I have created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this color by holding the Alt key or the Option key. And if you notice, it starts giving me that highlight in there. I can move this guy around. You're going to see here, if I move this close, you start getting some nice little kind of bevel looking thing. And I can duplicate this black or darker color. It starts giving you that little bevel effect that I'm trying to achieve there. So that will be that edge over here. And I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Just basically duplicate the darker one, duplicate the lighter one. And I'm going to come to the other side. And there you have that effect in there. Okay, so that's with the same stroke, right? I just duplicated the stroke in there to kind of make it a little bit bigger. I think why I'm going to scale it up just a little bit, maybe make it about 30, maybe let's do 35, and then we can move these little guys close to each other. So that way we can achieve what we're looking for. So I think that's good. Move this guy around here. Just gonna move this guy here. Now I have this little space to kind of add my stitches right on top of it, right? And the way I'm going to do my stitches is, so think about this kind of like a layering in Photoshop. So now we have this guy on the top, this guy in the middle, and I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to duplicate item. It's going to be a stroke, but my stroke is just going to be a solid color. I'm going to use one of my colors here. I'm going to use, let me use the dark one. And if you notice, it's going to be very close to the dark color that we're using there, and that's okay. I'm going to make my outline. Let me make it a little thick, darker maybe. Let me change this so I can see what I'm doing here, so you guys can see. So you're going to notice that it's a very dark line in there. And what I can do is I can make it smaller. Two things. I can make it smaller, or I can make it larger. And then what I can do is I can go to selecting that stroke. I can, let me do 25. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Object, actually Effect, Distort, Transform, and I'm going to scale vertically. So I'm going to select this guy. And I'm just going to go up and see what it does for me. Vertically, it's not doing much. Let's see. Didn't do much. Let me see if I go to Effect, Distort, Transform, and I want to scale it. Not horizontal. Let's see horizontal. I don't think horizontal is the one that I want. Horizontal is doing this. Let me cancel that out. But I'm selecting. I want to make sure that I'm selecting the right one. I want to select just this. I'm sorry, guys. Effect, Distort, Transform. I want to transform up. For some reason, it's not. doing it. Let's see if I move this. It's moving it this way, it's moving it that way. Okay, that works. But why my scaling is not working? All right, let me cancel this out. Let me see what else I can do. Um, Let me go to my strokes, Windows strokes, and see if I can fix this here. Window stroke. Within my stroke, I'm going to turn my dashes. You notice there's the dashes. I'm going to make it rounded. Let me crank the size of this guy. I don't think the size is going to work here. Um, but give me 1 second here. I think I'm going to use this. I'm going to use a different stroke on top of that, but just bear with me. Sorry about that. So now I have that piece in there. And then want to emphasize this little line on the front, the guy here in the front, this guy here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab and duplicate the dark color, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. The reason why is because I can grab now my little diamond here, and basically I can make it sharpen. Can sharpen that edge a little bit more. The same thing to this guy. All right. So I got that. My next thing is I wanted to put that stroke, but I think I'm going to do it independent. Just gonna put it on top and see how that works for me. And I think once I have this created, I can go into my window. What is it called? Graphic style, and I can drag that into my graphic style. There it is. And then anything that I do from this point on to create that shape, I can make it work. So for example, you see here, if I grab, I know this is our solid, and I can make this with a solid. But let's say, for example, if I have a an outline with this, you remove the fill, and if you go to your graphic style, you can apply this graphic style to it, and there it is. It makes it a lot easier for you to control it. You can put it behind your objects. You can grab your brush tool now, or you can grab the same. You can copy the same brush, copy, and paste in the front. And what I can do with that one, I can make it a white color. I can lower the opacity of it. If I have a brush, the same brush that I use for my other highlights, I can change my blend mode, window transparency, change my blend mode to maybe like an overlay. You notice that now things they start changing. I can always change the thickness of this brush. And for some reason is oh, I know why. It has all this bunch of stuff. I go to appearance. You guys can remove window appearance. I have all this extra stuff here that I don't need. So if you notice here, this blend mode, I can change this to normal, or I can change this to a 50%. I can use the letter C to open up my scissors, and I can chop things up right here, scissors, and I can cut this, and I can add nice detail to. All right, let's see here why it's not happening. Let's see. There we go. I can change this guys and change my blend mode. I can do overlays, soft lights. I can change my opacity. I can do whatever I want with this. And you guys can see that um, I can change all this and give it some nice highlights. Let's go into an overlay. And I can always copy and paste this, guys. Copy, paste in the front, and I can move them around. And I can change uh, the stroke thickness to something else that I can use, right? And I can play around with this, and you start getting those nice little highlights um, from the same way that I got those guys in there. Some other things you can do here, guys, you can grab those stroke, and you notice you have this uniform width file settings, and I can control this as well. And you notice that I can do anything I want with this, guys. I can even create a new path, make it with my brush, and I can change my width of it, and it starts to give me a whole different look and style for my highlights. Transparency, change this to blend mode overlay, and we can change this to about 50%. And there you have a nice little highlight for that section. And you can build it that way. Now to create the basically the stitches here, one of the ways that I was able to do was I will grab a rectangle. Maybe this rectangle here I can use kind of like the rectangle size here. I can make it the color um, from my swatches here. Let me go with the dark color. Window, stroke. I can use my dash lines and I can make it rounded. And what I can do, I can make it a little bit smaller there, something like that. And I can tell it that my lines could be a lot smaller, right? Depending on the size that you want. Maybe 3 kind of works for me. Now, if you want to get rid of, I can leave it like this just so I can just continue creating my style. But here, what I can do is I can look at my stitches here. I have this color that is the darker color. Maybe my stroke thickness could be a little bit heavier on that. And if I go into my appearance, I can duplicate it, duplicate item, make it smaller, and I can change my color to the lighter color. And basically that's how I did those stitches. And what you can do is we can duplicate this item right here. And if you notice that it has a dash, and let's say if I remove the dash, now it creates a solid surface all around, and I can put maybe this guy point 0.5 and this one 0.75. And what I can do is I can change even, make sure you select it, I can change the color to something a little bit maybe a little bit lighter, just to kind of complement, maybe 1.55. I think that kind of works. And I can even make these guys, I think 3 is too little. Let's see, what about 4? I think 4 works for us. So I got to do to this guy too. So 4, even 5, I think it works. I'm just looking at the spacing. Maybe 5, and let's do 10 on the space. And you can see here, if I put 10, maybe 15, maybe 3, it gets closer. So I can do the same thing for this guy. There we go. So now I got this nice little style, right? That I can, if we go to window and I go into my graphic style, I can drop this guy into that. And I can go to my shoe and remember that I had that extra piece in there that even I can grab a piece like this, and I can apply this to it, and automatically it's going to give me that effect. I can do that. And I can grab my pen tool and I can retrace the shape like this. And it's okay if I go beyond it. And if I go like this, now it creates that. I can cut it, put it behind this, and I can get rid of my fill. And there you see that, you just got to match um, this location of your object here. Here you got to clean it up a little bit. I think for that shape, I got too many anchors, so I can just come here and kind of clean it up. I think I'm clicking on the wrong one. So it's good to lock your objects, guys. That way you don't mess around with your stuff. So see here, I had some extra stuff. I didn't do a good job cleaning um, my shapes, but you get the idea on how I was able to create um, all those sections in here. And I can grab this guy and just maybe put it somewhere here. And then I can grab my stroke here, right? And kind of play around. You see how he just went all crazy? I can just make sure that I attach. So it gives me a nice rounded shape. And something is happening here. This stroke here went a little bit wacky on me, but that's fine. I can continue using this guy and kind of fix all this mess that I have here. See there, I can just drop that in there. And I can bring, get rid of this guy. Try to get rid of handles that you don't need. It just makes your job a lot harder. So I can go back to my window, sim graphic style, and I can apply that graphic style based on that. And that's how I was able to get my stitches in there. And I will repeat that pattern throughout that. And basically all these right here, guys, all this right here is using the same technique, using a gradient, kind of understanding how the gradient is being affected. So if I have my gradient, I go into my gradient tool. I think this one could be a nice little radio one, and I can get rid of some of those black. Maybe I can do two and swap it, right? Something like that. And I can play around with my gradient. Move this around just so I can get a light in there. Nice little uh, highlight, a nice little tone in there. And if you notice, I can select this. I can copy, paste it in the front. I go into my swatches, and remember I had all these different types of patterns that I can add to my design, right? All the different types of patterns and lines and stuff like that. And let's say, for example, I really like that one, and I can go under my transparency, window transparency, change my blend mode to overlay. But right there, you can see how things can change nicely within the pattern. You can always do multiple patterns on top of each other. Always go to that window transparency and see what else you can get. I can change my opacity maybe to a 50%. Maybe overlay doesn't work. Maybe a soft light, maybe a hard light. You just got to play around with this stuff to make sure that it's doing what you want. Um, that highlight on the top here, those little lines, those are basically, you can grab your pen tool, or you can just use a line segment tool. You do this and you just apply your brush, make it a light color like white, window transparency. You see how much repetition there is in here. We change the blend mode to overlay, and we can change this to about 65 if you need to. And we continue just adding more details as we go. Same thing here. Um, we can go into my brush, apply this, change my blend mode, and change it to an overlay. So there you see it, how things are working. Now you're gonna notice that there was a shadow. There's a shadow that I created underneath this and underneath that. That shadow basically is you grab a pen tool and you kind of trace that shape. I'm gonna do it all the way here so you can see it. You make it black. You apply that brush that we created, and you just change your blend mode to overlay. And you're gonna notice that now you have that shadow in there. And one of the things that I did with that shadow is to kind of soften that shadow into that area. I went and I applied an effect blur. I did a Gaussian blur. Don't put too much blur because then it's going to disappear, right? You're just going to add a little bit of that blurriness, and you're going to see here that starts to look pretty cool. You can copy it and paste it in the front again, just to kind of give it a little bit more. You can control this, just give it a little 50%. And that's how you can add a lot of that detail. You can apply some of those highlights into the design. All right, guys, I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, please just put it on the comments. Just let me know that anything that you need, any feedback, anything that you guys are looking for. If you need me to do a tutorial and you need me to go over something, please do not hesitate. Put it on my comments, but please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I see you next time in the next tutorial. Have a great day.